I'm in class, so
He didn't like that nickname.
I'm
About
hearing the
changing it, he
background.
became William the Conqueror, a much cooler nickname. Through an elaborate system of like
World
false
history.
promises and dirty tricks, he got a guy who was next in line to be the King of England, Harold. Uh, According to William, Duke of Normandy's story, he got Harold to promise to make William King of England as soon as the current king, Successor of England, dies. Harold claims the throne. He is now Harold II, King of England. He made a Norman invasion to the south. Poor Harold. Um, William, Duke of Normandy, invades southern England with an army of French mercenaries hired for the purpose in England. I will give you huge chunks of England to reward you. The Norman invasion is successful. October of 1066, the Battle of Hastings in southern England. The Normans defeat the Saxons because the Normans have cavalry and advanced military tactics. The Saxons are fighting battlefield with an arrow through the eye, common theme in the Middle Ages. And William becomes the first Norman king of England. He speaks French, Norman French. He's French by culture. He had never been to England before. He rules from 1066 to his death in 1087. He reorganizes England so that he is truly in control of the whole country. He takes power away from the traditional Saxon lords. He gives land to nobles in exchange for their promise to be loyal to him. So they only have land, they only have power, they only have wealth because the king allows it. This puts the king firmly in charge of the state. William also embarks on one of the most ambitious census projects in history. He has his officers scour the land to create a list of absolutely all things. If you were really interested, you could buy a copy of the Doomsday Book and find out exactly how many cattle are in Sheffield in 1086. It's not real thrilling reading, but it is a really important document. Skip forward a couple of generations, and we have King Henry II. Bunch of stuff happened in between. Henry II is great-grandson of William the Conqueror, I believe. He is a genius when it comes to the law. He is all about the justice system. He completely reforms the justice system of England, puts it on a common law basis, which is very similar actually to Roman law, which we talked about the other day, based in the idea of reason and convention. He reforms the court system and makes the king the head of the legal system in England. So not only do the lords owe their authority and their wealth to the king, but the king also gets to administer justice. He is now the head of state and the head of the justice system. Skip a couple kings forward. Henry II's second oldest son reigned after him. That's Richard the Lionheart. He spent more than half of his reign out of the country. Not a very successful king. Spent 4 years of his 10-year reign actually in prison in Austria. Whole other story. Richard died without heirs, so his younger brother John took over. That's Prince John from the Robin Hood story. That's him, bad King John. He was so bad, in fact, that the nobles rose up in rebellion against him. He had been depriving them of their rights, depriving them of their lands and their incomes, taxing them unfairly, embarking on disastrous foreign wars. So in 1215, the nobles of England rose up, captured John at a place called Runnymede, and signed a document called Magna Carta, the Great Charter. Sometimes Magna Carta is made out to be like a constitution of England. It's not quite. What it is the first document in history that limits the power of a monarch. It says in no uncertain terms what the king is not allowed to do. And what he's not allowed to do is take land or money away from the nobles. He almost immediately tried to take Magna Carta back, tried to break it. Fortunately for England, he died immediately thereafter. So they didn't have to worry about bad King John anymore. Magna Carta was eventually used to justify the existence of Parliament, which was established originally in 1295 under King Edward I. He's the king in Braveheart, if you're familiar. That's Edward. Another real ruthless king. Parliament eventually, by the 1600s, became the ruling body in England. It's nowadays elected by the people, at least the lower, and that is sort of an offshoot of the Magna Carta. I am racing a little bit. I get so excited about this stuff that I go too slowly. I previously mentioned the Capetian dynasty. In 987, the last Carolingian king, the last of the descendants of Charlemagne, died, leaving no heir. So the great lords of France got together and elected one of their own to be the new king, a guy called Hugh Capet, who was largely useless. He was picked because he would be the easiest to push around. The other kings of the Capetian dynasty were equally useless until 1180, and Philip II. The Capetian kings, up until Philip II, really only controlled the territory right around the city of Paris, known as the Ile-de-France, or the island of France, the island around Paris. This changed with Philip II. Philip II became king in 1180. He inherited just that little bit of territory around Paris. Upon his death in 1223, he directly controlled pretty much all of France. He regained a bunch of it that had been taken by the English. The English in 1180 controlled half of mainland France. By 1223, Philip II had kicked them out of nearly all of it. And he directly controlled the administration of justice and the appointment of powerful nobles in nearly all of France. So he is the authoritative, the powerful, centralizing king in French history. Skip a couple of generations and we get Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair. Philip the Fair was also a pretty ruthless king. He centralized authority in France by similar means, successful wars against the English.
This guy right here,
relieved France of a great deal of its debts.
He's related to the boxer.
The Knights Templar. James Boguski brought up the
James
Knights Templar the other day. They were a monastic
Evander Holyfield.
Born of the First Crusade.
He's related to him.
Hopefully we'll get to the First Crusade today. They had become money lenders to the nobility of France and the rest of Europe by the 1200s. And by 1314, or by 1307, excuse me, the King of France owed the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars to the Knights Templar. He didn't want to pay that back. So he's related to the Pope, who's a close friend of his and did what Philip said, to outlaw the Knights Templar. He rigged a trial in which the Knights Templar were convicted of a bunch of crimes.
Just I give you a little tidbit. This is my life in school.
That meant debts owed to the Knights Templar.
This is what I do.
The King of France
4 days out of the week. With Friday being a
it's also
lab
during
day,
the reign of Philip IV that the tradition
which
of the
I can't go to because I work.
This pays off when we eventually get to the French
So
Revolution. The Estates General is kind of like a parliament for
5
France,
nights a week, 4 nights a week.
Except that it only meets when the king calls it. When he needs
this is what
extra
I do.
tax revenue.
Yeah, my laptop from 5 to 7:30.
We'll talk more about that one.
I do my homework. I get to be in class tomorrow.
During this period, there's a Christian reconquest of Spain.
Yeah.
As mentioned in the 700s.
That's what I do. That's
Muslim
how I do.
Kingdoms of the Middle East had
I
expanded
work.
Throughout North Africa and had
I
conquered
take care of my
Spain
daughter.
by 711 AD. Easy number to remember.
And I come to class.
To remember.
That's my life.
Starting after Charlemagne in the early 800s, kings of France and Christian Spanish kings
People would say
began to
otherwise.
recapture territory from the Muslims.
Until you jail doesn't work for you
Christian
sometimes.
kingdoms in
Ooh, I'm
Castile,
getting my gray hairs back.
Navarre, Aragon, and Portugal.
I gotta
Mostly in
freshen
the
that up.
north and west of Spain.
Anywho.
This was considered a holy crusade to retake
Come home after work.
Christendom.
Relax for a little bit, get my child together.
By this point,
After I get my child together, I
Muslim
hop
Caliphate of
on.
Africa and Spain was,
I'll be like 10-15 minutes
falling on
late.
hard times. They were
And
having
whatnot.
trouble maintaining
And
military
then after
supremacy.
that, I
And the Spanish Crusader kings
go
took
through
advantage
this.
of that.
All this to get my bachelor's degree.
I'm rushing. I'm sorry. I've got to. The Holy Roman Empire is reborn.
That's what I do,
1000s
y'all.
AD. This is the empire that was first established by Charlemagne,
but
broke up
this is
after
my
his son's
duty.
death and the accession of his grandsons.
Mm-hmm.
It's reborn in the 1000s.
My duty as a single mom, doing what I
and by
gotta do to
1152,
survive
in the reign of a guy called Frederick
in
I
my
of Barbarossa,
so-called ghetto
it became
life,
a
which
major
I really
European
don't live in the
power.
ghetto.
By this point, the Holy
But
Roman Empire coincides
even if I did, it
more or
doesn't
less
really
with
matter.
modern-day Germany and Austria, Central Europe,
So anywho,
mostly German-speaking.
I gotta go because
Unique thing about the Holy Roman Empire is that the emperor is elected.
I gotta finish this class.
He's usually elected from one of several powerful families, so it's not like anybody could run for.
And hopefully my
but it is an
class will
elected
be over
position,
now, and we
so
don't
it
have
changes
lab
family
tomorrow.
every so
We do. I sure the
Frederick
hell
I
ain't gonna go,
and his
although I
son,
have
Frederick
to. Plus, I
II,
gotta do my homework. Plus,
both
I gotta
ruled
work on
as
my
Holy Roman
final,
emperors, but there was somebody
which
in
I have
between who was not a member
wonderful
of the
help with.
They were rulers
Thanks
of
to my
basically Germany and Austria, the
friend.
German-speaking part of Central Europe. But both of them,
Jolin.
Frederick I and Frederick II, both mighty
Thank
warriors,
you.
spent nearly their entire careers trying to conquer
He's
Italy.
gonna help me out with
They
my
wanted to
project.
add Italy to the Holy Roman Empire.
And I'm gonna use my project as a study to my path
the city of Rome.
as a
Should be
Celtic,
capital, in fact. Unfortunately for them, the
green
popes disagreed.
earth
The popes
witch.
claimed to be the temporal lords of Rome and the papal
with that
states.
being said,
They collected taxes.
my
They had
head
private
is
armies
dry
in the papal states.
and itchy.
Wars broke out between the Holy Roman Empire and the Church.
So anyways, I'm gonna go back in class. I just wanted to share a little bit of my class with you guys.
They did almost nothing but fight.
So you can see what my life is like.
Frederick I and Frederick II. Eventually, the Holy Roman emperors
what I do
were forced to back off
after work
by that
and when I
point,
come home.
while they had been obsessed with reconquering
So until then,
Italy,
blessed
they
be.
more or less lost control of Germany.
Bye.